No touchdowns. Here's Dan Campbell after the game.
You know, I asked for improvement from last week, was the story. And we did improve. We did improve. And their coach cost them. Their head coach cost them this one.
Next, Coach. What was the story of this game? Bucs win or the Lions lose?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I'd say the bigger story though is the Bucs win, and Detroit to be able to go into Detroit and win, and to win the way that they did, because their numbers weren't very good across the board. Their numbers weren't very good, but they showed more grit than the Lions, which that's the Lions trademark. That's what they're known for. So I give Baker a lot of credit. I give the team a lot of credit to win in that environment. And then there's an element, too, of Detroit having to get out of their own way. They were 1 for 7 in the red zone. They had a mistake at the end of the half. There were a lot of things.
That's what he's talking about when he said I cost him in the half.
It's unfortunate to lose the 3 points the way that they lost 3 points is a tough situation. Totally changes the end of the game. But I give Baker a ton of credit to being grittier than Detroit was in Detroit Stadium.
I think it's the Buccaneers win, too. That's bigger. And they've announced themselves, at least so far, they've announced themselves as, look, we're a tough team. To go into Detroit and hold that team to 16 points, we know all their offensive weapons. But I will say this about the Lions, like, this is them, now you're playing with expectations. Even last year, even though people knew they were kind of coming, it's still, you hadn't arrived to whatever degree you can without a Super Bowl. This year, now everybody's looking at them as a tough game, and that's from the coach on down. That's not just the players. They expect a lot from Campbell and these players, and they didn't look great against a banged-up Rams team. I know the Rams are pretty good, but they're banged up. Didn't look great against them in week 1, and obviously this last week. So Detroit is a team to watch and see how they respond to this.
Listen, nobody on this show has been a bigger Baker Mayfield fan than me, and I picked them to make the playoffs, but they're exceeding my expectations, and he's been awesome now for 2 months, or 8 straight games, if you will, you know what I mean, dating back to last year. But the bigger story for the NFL is the Lions' loss, because there are 2 ominous clouds over this otherwise incredibly optimistic Lions scenario. And they are Dan Campbell's game management and Jared Goff's propensity to instantly go pumpkin mode if pressured. Those are everything else you have to I love the roster. I love the scheme. I love the talent. I love the youth. Aiden Hutchinson might have 20 sacks by Thanksgiving. Love all of it. And I like Dan Campbell as a coach overall holistically, and he clearly loves his players. But the stuff you need to be buttoned up about, he has never shown me he's excellent at. And Goff has always shown me that if you can break through that offensive line, I understand all quarterbacks are worse when they're pressured. I get it. But he is like, the numbers, it's like, wait, is Jared Goff one of the 3 best quarterbacks in football? And then it's like, wait, is Jared Goff going to throw an interception every time he drops back? And it's just based on, did he get pressured? And that's what showed up in this game. The Lions had no business losing it, but the coach did cost him, and Goff cost him. And that, to me, is why they were hard to believe in as a Super Bowl team, despite how many things I like about them. So that, to me, is the bigger story for the league.
Okay. So I'm going to talk predominantly about the Lions in this video, and I'll save a Bucs video for later. But a lot of Bucs fans, who I'm sure will still be watching this video, were so adamant that this was a bigger story, that it was the Bucs, and that the Bucs won this game, yada yada yada. And now Nick Wright, who is incredibly high on the Bucs and incredibly high on Baker Mayfield, even admits the Lions had no business losing this game. Okay, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. And as Brewer even said, that the Lions have struggled now 2 games. I mean, that tight game against the Rams looks even worse, considering what the Cardinals did to the Rams. And I defended that game. I defended the Lions and said that they showed me a lot of grit, but they, should be better against the Rams team. But it's McVay, Stafford, and Cooper Kupp. Like, those things can happen. This, to me, was just an ugly game for both teams, really, right? And yeah, the Bucs do deserve the win, right? So they absolutely do. And I would say watching that game, this was more about the Bucs winning than the Lions losing. But the biggest story is the Lions just not looking good. They're not playing good football right now for back-to-back weeks. And yet they have some great things going for them. Their defensive line continues to obviously be insane, to obviously be vicious. Jared Goff does throw an unbelievable ball. And so when you do give him time and give him protection, I mean, it's just like you can't really find many people that are going to throw a better ball than him. And the run game is so fast, so physical, and so smart, but then they like abandoned it, right? Gibbs was rolling 13 carries, 89 yards, 6.5 yards a carry. And yet they had Jared Goff throw 55 times. That's insanity. I feel like I got that number wrong somehow. I mean, it's just insane. I don't know what the play calling is there. I really don't. I question Ben Johnson, and I think Ben Johnson's amazing. I really do. But I question that. And think about what they had to do, right? At first, I thought they were really smart. They kicked a field goal on 4th down. I go, okay, that's good. That's smart. Do as what the other great teams do, like the Kansas City Chiefs. But then they're still hyper aggressive, which really could have hurt them. There was a couple times that they went for it and it could have gone wrong, especially on the fake. And now that game gets out of control. You can win this game straight up. You don't need to rely on all that. And yet you did all that stuff. You did the fakes. You still were hyper aggressive and it still wasn't enough. Because you're not doing the fundamentals. You're not taking care of business. You're not having a balanced play calling. And that should be a problem. The Lions should be nervous about that. Look what we did. We had to go for on 4th down. We had to do our fakes. We had to do everything. And it wasn't good enough to beat the Buccaneers, who were decimated on defense, who were down a lot of guys. Baker Mayfield juking people. Baker Mayfield looking like an MVP out there. If you're a Lions fan, you should that's got to concern you a little bit. Now, do I think that the Lions can right this ship? Absolutely. Do I think that this is just some, week 1, week 2, some nonsense that they got to work on? Absolutely. But it's still legitimate, concerns. It's not a red flag. It's a yellow flag. It's they didn't look too great against the Rams, but I could find some things that I was really happy about. I kept pointing out the Amon-Ra St. Brown type of thing, where he batted down that ball. But then the Lions, like their play calling today or on Sunday was really just confusing to me. Their whole game plan as a whole, I understood it, but they didn't adapt to it. The run game was working, yet they didn't rely on it. Just a little weird stuff. Defensively, they held their own for the most part. I mean, you hold a team down to 20 points. That's pretty good. You should expect a high-powered offense like the Lions to be able to do significantly more, and they just couldn't. So I got to see what the Lions can do moving forward. They said in this video, that the Buccaneers have shown the NFL that they arrived, or however they phrased it. And it's like they beat the Washington Commanders, and then they beat the Lions, who are clearly not playing well right now. Like, that's clear to me. They're clearly just not playing good football. This would have been different if the Lions really beat up on the Rams. Right? Or they just truly looked like they were in control of that whole game. But the truth is, the Lions could have lost that game against the Rams. The Lions could be 0-2 right now. That is a concern. That is absolutely a concern. Even if the Lions ended up winning this game, it would be concerning. It would be, if they won this game, it would be very reminiscent of how the Philadelphia Eagles started in 2023. They're winning some games, they're getting by, but it just doesn't look right. And if you're a Lions fan, you have to be honest with that. You don't have to say that this team's over. You don't have to say this is done. They're overrated. They're not going to win. They're not going to right the ship. You don't have to say that. We can say some of these statements that I'm making and it still be okay. Still have super high expectations for the Lions. This is what the beginning of the season is all about. Figuring stuff out. Figuring out who is this team? What's going wrong? What's going right? What changes do we need to make? That's the way it goes. Otherwise, the season would be 2 weeks. We'd crown a Super Bowl champion and it'd be over. See ya. Done. There's a lot to figure out. A lot to figure out. I think maybe a lot of people felt that this Lions team, because they just took the league by storm last season, right? Beating the Kansas City Chiefs first game, exciting. It was, we're not coming. We're already here. We have arrived, right? And it was just exciting. And then I think a lot of Lions fans felt that they should have beat the 49ers, that they should have gotten to the Super Bowl, and that they could have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl since they already had beaten them in the regular season. Like, I think there was a big belief that the Lions were there, that they could have won a Super Bowl if just something bounced their way. If they got a little bit of luck, they win. And so it was like, okay, here we go. We're going to go now. And these first two games were not so good. And again, it's okay because you got away with 1-on-1. It's not the worst thing ever. But they got to figure some stuff out. I don't think we have to now just throw Dan Campbell under the bus. We don't have to now go throw Jared Goff into the trash, right? We don't have to be that extreme, but we do have to be honest with what we're seeing. That's the way I look at it. And again, you can see that I'm incredibly high on the Lions, but I got to be consistent. I got to be consistent. The whole time I watched that game start to finish. It's one of the main games that I watch 100% live. And the whole time I'm thinking, I'm just like, the Lions just don't look right. It just doesn't look right. I'm confused by the play calling. I'm confused by the game plan. Jared Goff, 55 times. I mean, it's just, what you need to do is, now I see what some of my other notes say. The game felt too hard for the Lions, number one. They gotta have the identity of just being this run team. Run it down the throat. Use Goff for precision, not a shootout. Those were my real big takeaways. I mean, that final drive made no sense to me for the Lions. And in general, they could just never seem to finish a drive. So it just disjointed all around. And no, I'm not going to give all the credit to the Buccaneers for that. I'm just not. The Buccaneers absolutely deserve credit for winning because they were gritty and they stayed in this game. They made the Lions uncomfortable. And Baker Mayfield stepped up when he needed to. But that was hardly like the Buccaneers just coming in and proving that they were a better team. That's not the way I saw it. They had a better game. They played better. And if you watch that game, you say, yeah, the Bucs absolutely deserve to win that game and the Lions do not. But I believe that the Lions are a better team. I'm going to believe that they're a better team than what they've shown so far. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. Got to wait for more games to play. But if you're the Lions fan, hopefully what you're thinking is, yeah, we're getting off to maybe not an ideal start. We're not exactly where we want to be right now, but we got to just kind of get into the rhythm, get into game shape, and things will kind of, we can get some momentum going later on in the season. Because not all teams that start strong end strong, and not all teams that start weak end weak. So, just kind of a wait and see right now. But kudos to the Buccaneers for winning this game. Lions, got to get back to work, got to figure some stuff out, and I'm optimistic that they will. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? What do you think the bigger story is, and what do you think is going on with the Lions right now? Do you think they're just not that good, or do you think this has just kind of been a rough, weird start? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.